So I called you, what was it, a couple months back, and you said, what did you say?
I said, Jerry Hochek, the man who changed my life.
Yeah, and I said, and I asked you how did I do that exactly? And what did you say?
You got my phone to ring more than it has ever rang before.
So when I met you, I know you ran a couple ads in the magazine that I used to publish, Natural Awakenings in northern New Jersey. So you have a fairly new, I mean it's a couple years old at this point, right? 2.5 years old or whatever. Um,
Yes.
you have a new pest control company in northern New Jersey, and you provide, besides traditional pest control methods, you also employ all natural chemicals,
Yeah,
right?
so we try to take a more, I guess, homeopathic route. We try to avoid traditional pesticides completely and just go with things that are deemed natural by the EPA, less impactful on the environment, or as organic as possible. We tend to stay away from anything that's not. So we avoid things that can't be controlled naturally and organically, which quite frankly, there isn't too many, but termites, for example, are things that we typically don't do. But outside of that, we pretty much remedy everything naturally.
Right.
So,
So you have both options available, traditional and the more natural methods. And when we first spoke, I crafted a nice full page ad for you. We ran that for a couple months. Didn't really get much business out of that. And in hindsight, and you were the first pest control operator ever advertised in my magazine. But in hindsight, there's such a narrow window of opportunity for pest control work or any service work um, that requires, let's say, a type of emergency service. People have an insect infestation, or maybe they got a raccoon or squirrels in their attic or chimney or whatever the case is. So they're looking for service right away. And same thing if you have a backed up drain or toilet and you need to get the roto-rooter guy in, or you got a leaky pipe. You want to get the plumber over there fast. So what do most people do these days? So back in my day, and most people don't know that I actually owned a pest control company. I was based in Bergen County, New Jersey, and that was in '99, 2000 when the Yellow Page directories were still quite viable, and my then partner and we were running ads in the Yellow Pages. It was really the only game in town because that's where everybody went to find a pest control operator, plumber, or roto-rooter man, or what have you. Those Yellow Page books stopped being viable right around 2010 when the internet matured enough. And I remember I was actually working for a client in New Jersey back then, and he had phone numbers with the local cable company. And as I guess like a feature, they also gave you a listing in the local yellow book. And I remember the folks that were calling the listing that was in the yellow book, and they were all 65 and up. So that's who's still using the phone book, and I think that'll continue until they actually discontinue them because they'll stop being viable. There won't be enough revenue in there. So phone books will disappear. Surprised they haven't gone yet. But so nowadays, Google is the new phone book. I actually trained you on how to generate better presence or more exposure in the Google listings, and not just in your local area where you're based, but also throughout the entire county or the northern New Jersey region. And that's been working well for you. I remember you were also buying leads when we first met. You were buying leads off of Thumbtack, right?
that's correct. Yes.
And they weren't as let's say advantageous because I believe you're buying a lead, but they're actually Thumbtack is selling that lead to several different companies. Is that how it works? Or
Yes. Most of the lead generation sources, the thumbtacks, the home advisors, the home guide, and basically what they do is, they take the information in and then they farm that information out to multiple pest control companies, and it becomes a race to the phone. So typically, the first person that is getting the alert is the first person to make the call, can usually book the business. The problem is, they kind of recycle that information, I believe, over and over again. And that's where it becomes challenging. And it's just, in my opinion, it certainly wasn't the best bang for our buck. And, as you alluded to earlier, as Google has since taken over for the phone books and the yellow pages, your best opportunity to drive business and to be found, quite frankly, is via Google, right? I mean, that's right. Really the end all be all to customers, whether you're providing a service or selling a product. And as you know, the question now is, there's a lot of companies that want to help you with those needs. However, there's ways they go about doing it that don't always, in my opinion, make the most sense. It could be costly. It could be a really costly endeavor to hire someone to help you with Google.
Well, right, and in a lot of cases, you're buying leads, so you don't own the mechanism or the vehicle that's actually generating them. So with what we did, I actually showed you the method that I've used with clients in order to build a strong presence in Google. So when folks are searching you in let's say within a I think for you it's probably like a 15-20 mile radius, right? Based on the presence that we've built up, it's about a 15-20 mile radius, I think, across the entire county where you're situated, and then even some of the lower counties. So you got a lot of exposure that we've built up over time, and so now your phone is ringing on a regular basis, just about, I would say, daily, right? Some weeks it's just every day you're getting calls.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Multiple times a day sometimes, and it's funny because whenever I don't get a call in a day, I don't get discouraged, just because I know the following day I'll get 2 or 3. And right. Today was a prime example, right? Today I had about 4 or 5 calls, and I was able to get 2 or 3 new customers out of it. 2 people were shopping for price, and it's funny, that's the other thing that I've noticed since I've been working with you, Jerry, is that it's for some reason or another, I'm not necessarily getting those folks that are price shopping. Right. I'm getting people that are looking for my service. They want what I do, and quite frankly, more often than not, I book the visit without even giving a price quote.
I've been preaching to my clients for years, build infrastructure, so build content, and we are doing in effect the same thing, because we've been building your presence. So it's not like we're building content to put on social media. That there's a place for that depending on the type of business someone's operating. But a lot of this has to do with infrastructure. You need to be seen. There's a 2-pronged approach to this now that the internet's really matured and social media is big, and there's a lot of attention there. You got to understand there's free attention there. So there's free eyeballs if you can share some good, meaningful, compelling, memorable, impactful information about what it is that you do. My strategy for you, somewhere a little bit down the line, once your company's a lot more mature and you have you've really built up your presence on Google and the other search engines as much as possible, then I would suggest doing a lot of videos about exactly what you do, and even giving people tips on how to prevent certain things like animal infestation. Because there's as homeowners, there's things that we can do to prevent insect and animal infestations. If you're the pest control operator that's actually doing that, then you're going to be seen as the expert over time, and you're going to build trust with the audience, whoever's looking at your content. And then when they do have a problem, they'll be more prone to use your company, because you've established yourself as the expert. You've established yourself as someone they could trust because you've shared lots of valuable information over time. That I recommend for everyone is to have a two-pronged approach. Number one, have your campaigns or micro strategy where you're building out your presence. When people have a need, they know where to find you. You're showing up in the Google search results. You have a strong presence, and then above and beyond that long term, that macro strategy should be to establish yourself as the expert in the industry. No matter what market you're in, I don't care if it's Manhattan. You can do this now with social media very easily, and that's going to make you the rock star in the industry, in that person's general area, and then you'll be more prone to get the business. So that's a little bit down the line for you because your company's still young, and there's only so many hours in the day, but we'll get there. So that's what I'm recommending to everybody is that establish yourself as the expert, as the authority in your industry. Because if you don't, now we all have the means to do that, and if you don't do it, eventually somebody else will. One of your competitors will, and you'll be kicking yourself in the butt because you didn't do it early on.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. It's one of those things that. Now I'll give you an example. I could physically change the oil in my car, but I'll go get an oil change because it's not something I want to do, right? I could physically mow my lawn, but I hire a landscaper. So it's all about the time. So even with pest control, it's funny. I got a call today. A gentleman and his wife had fleas in their basement, and they went to Home Depot, and the guy at Home Depot suggested that he open up 3 cans of fog. And I remember, when you first take the training course, one of the first things they tell you is never open up more than 1 can of fog because you could potentially, blow your house up. It's happened, right? It's combustible. Yeah. So the guy at the Home Depot told them, no, just make sure, you shut your gas off. And I told the woman and the husband, he told you that because you could possibly blow your house up. 1 can of fog is more than enough to cover your entire basement. 3 is potential health hazard. So to your point, Jerry, yeah, I think informational videos are critical. I know a lot of people are concerned, well, if I show people how to do it and what to do, then they may just do it themselves, and they may.
Never before has there been such a huge opportunity. I know it seems confusing, digital marketing, it may seem confusing to a lot of people. And part of the reason why is there's a lot of folks that claim to do, internet marketing, digital marketing, but they're really not seasoned professionals. They're just in it to make a buck. And in my case, I've been marketing online since I started with affiliate programs in 1997, and did really well with that. And then I wound up getting married, and my wife had a restaurant. And I started doing marketing for it was a smaller restaurant, the initial one she had. I started doing marketing. So the restaurant was in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and it was in the low rent district. It was in the south end, right on Bloomfield Avenue, near the Newark border. And what I noticed was that in Montclair, where we have I think it's over 300 restaurants. Montclair, New Jersey is a hub where people come from the vicinity, the surrounding towns, and they come eat there because they do have some of the better restaurants. So one of the top search, or one of them anyway, I believe it was actually the top search. It was Montclair NJ restaurants. That was the specific keyword phrase that I targeted. I created a web page targeting that term, and we were getting sometimes 30 to 40 visitors on that page a day, because I was, of course, tracking everything with Google Analytics later, and whatever the other solution was in the beginning, and I could actually see the keyword phrases that they were using, and the page was also optimized for some other keyword phrases, and we were getting tons of business from it. And that was one of the tactics I did. And then when I had the magazine I did some digital marketing for some of my clients as well. And there's just the thing is that it's really, if you want to break it down to basics, all you're doing on the internet, it's just like, back in the day, and I've been in business since I had my first business in '87. I did custom window coverings. The vertical blinds were new, fairly new, and they were, just they were the rave, and everybody was buying them for their homes. And in the beginning, I started with, I just put flyers out in large high-rise buildings on bulletin boards, and also in supermarkets. And I was actually getting work that way, and that's how how I began initially. I didn't have any advertising budget back then. And then and there was no internet. This was '87. And then once I generated some revenue, I did what my father's partner, that's how I got into the business. I worked for my father's company for a while, and he got into that business with somebody that had been a lifelong, veteran business owner. And this was like his 7th or 8th business. And he taught, I learned how to install, I learned how to sell. And then I was also watching everything he was doing. And, he was basically putting ads in the Sunday paper to generate business, residential business. And it was working, and it was working great. And when I had some budget, I did specifically what he did. So, nothing's changed all that much. It's just that we have this huge digital landscape that everyone's connected to. So you're doing the same thing, whether it's the newspaper back in the day or a yellow page ad. You created an offer, and then you had to distribute it somehow. So the newspaper did the distribution for you, right? They also they created the ad. One of their graphics designers created a display ad. So you had the content, you had the offer. Your offer was in the content, and same thing with the yellow pages. And then that's the same exact thing we're doing online is the offers in the website, or it's in a Google listing, or it's on a landing page, or it's on a video, or it's in the case of one of my clients, I think he's up to like over 300 videos now, because he markets an entire line of products to musicians. So each product that he sells, some of the products he has 2, 3, and 4 videos, because they do evolve a bit. They change over time. They're improved, or they have different versions of the same product. So and videos are immense online, because we're all geared for television. And I'm a huge proponent of using video, because it's actually easy. It's easy to produce. We're not doing produced. We're not doing polished, because what gets much more traction in social media is videos that actually resemble more reality-based television. So reality TV, and then that's it. And that has so much more appeal than anything polished. Polished doesn't work anymore. Sales presentations don't work. You want to connect with your public. You want to do a lot of storytelling, and you want to basically tell the story of who you are, what you're doing, what you have to offer your customers or clients, why it's important for them to get it, and then why it's important for them to get it now. And that's just the anatomy of a great sales message. So it's unprecedented opportunity we have, but you have to know how to maneuver online. You have to know how to generate the traffic, and without wasting money, because I see a lot of business owners do this because it seems confusing, but it's really not.
No, I agree with you. I think what's most important is, I guess, sorting through the weeds, right? So I had a business prior where I spent a lot of money on digital marketers that promised me the world, and none of them delivered on the results. And the problem is, you have to spend thousands of dollars before you could even realize that you're going down the wrong road, right? So, when we first connected, I knew right away that I was in good hands because all the things that I already had done and fell for, so to say, all the traps, those are the first things you address. And it was funny because it really resonated because I had literally just experienced that. You told me all the things to avoid, which I had done in this business, but in a prior business, I didn't. So it was refreshing to hear someone with tactics on how to, increase your business without committing to $5,000 a month over the next 12 months minimum to get the ball rolling, right? Everyone.
What was that? Can you share that? What was that prior business?
My wife had a sneaker business, an online sneaker business where
I remember she had her own line of sneakers.
Correct. So,
right.
Obviously, like everybody else, e-commerce is fantastic, right? Because it's your highest margin as opposed to traditional distribution channels into stores. So we wanted to do our best to grow our internet presence as best as we could. And as you can imagine, when you're not hyper focused on a local service area and you're trying to sell sneakers all over the world, quite frankly, there's some really heavy lifting that needs to be done. And you could spend a lot of money trying to do that heavy lifting where instead of going the traditional ad route and trying to build out, all this SEO information, if you stay focused on a specific vertical in a specific area, channel that, get results there. I know the one thing you had mentioned early on was testing different things, right? Before you commit to something, test it for a couple days.
Right.
And see what kind of results you get and see if it's worth it to go down that road.
I'm not just a guy that has a marketing company. I've owned small businesses, including a restaurant, toughest business to run in the world. So I'm very adverse to wasting money.